to you, you know, treating me as well as you treat, you know, everybody else in economy.
I'm going to get rid of the. I used to be a politician too, which means I've got a big goal. So I thought, you know, that does say a lot about Sadiq. I promise you, there are not many mayors around the country and people who, you know, have the responsibilities that he would. When someone says, do you want to go up and sit in the front, have a bit of, you know, extra room and comfort and everything else, who would have said, no, I'm really happy just to sit in the back and chat to people here. And I think that says an awful lot about Sadiq Khan. I want to say a couple of very, very brief things, which is firstly about Sadiq's commitment to music. We all know music in the UK, it makes a £4.5 billion contribution to the economy, but the beating heart of that is in London. You know, I'm looking around the room, people from, you know, the major labels, from the indie labels, who are SMEs, many of whom headquartered in London. So much investment in London, so many hugely important venues, from the biggest venues like the O2 to really critical grassroots venues in London. It is so important to an industry that brings enjoyment to millions of people and makes a huge contribution to the economy. And Sadiq Khan, I promise you, absolutely gets that. And he is someone who's been a huge supporter. So you remember recently the government came out in support of Agent for Change, to actually change the planning laws to protect grassroots venues. That was something that Sadiq was doing in London a long, long time before we managed to persuade the government to do it, both in the UK government and in the Scottish government as well. And I actually think it was the pressure that Sadiq brought to bear in London that drove that huge, huge change for our industry. So I'm really, really grateful that he's given up a little bit of his time to be here today. Two very, very brief issues I just want to raise. The first is around Brexit and touring. Brexit goes through. For artists who are trying to establish themselves, hone their trade, learn their craft, build their audience, the idea that we can pile on more bureaucracy and cost for so many artists, many of whom are based in London, who are trying to access touring across the EU, it will be a real disaster for us, and that's a really, really important argument. We're here in the States. Horace can speak with much more authority than me to say it is still very, very hard for London-based artists to come to the United States and tour. Can we make some progress on that as we do some of the good work around international trade? I really, really hope so. And the final thing, it is a tech conference that becomes a music conference, and if I can just very briefly mention our friends at YouTube. We're all grateful for the huge opportunity it gives us, and we all embrace the new platforms and the exposure that it gives all of us as artists and investors. But the only thing we would say, you know, YouTube, that is a $75 billion business. 85% of people who go onto YouTube go on there to consume music, to watch and listen to music. So there is a huge transfer of value from the content that artists and those who invest in that creativity as well provide, and we know we get negligible rewards, and we really, really need fair rewards from the tech companies that are making a fortune out of your creativity and the investment that goes behind it. But I'm going to briefly bring in Horace, thank you very much. And then we're going to hear from Sadiq. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you for coming, Sadiq. And good to see you all here. Welcome all my fellow musicians. Michael's mentioned about Brexit. We're really worried about the free movement around Europe post-Brexit. It's a nightmare getting into the States to play. We don't want that to end up being a nightmare getting into France, Germany, Italy, Spain, etc., where so many of you will make your living or make your living right now. But the other thing I wanted to mention is music education in the UK. I had a great career as a musician and a songwriter. I had a wonderful time. But I come from very humble roots, you know, single parent family, council house. And if when I'd gone up to the rather chaotic comprehensive school that I went to with my mum, and they'd said, look, if you want to learn the clarinet, you're going to have to pay to learn the clarinet, then I wouldn't have had that career. I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have had a wonderful life in this music industry. And the UK music industry is so great. What's happening right now is a very, very narrow socio-economic stream of young people have got access to music education in the UK. Now, I think, well, you know, where is the next Manic Street Preachers or the next Pulp or, you know, the next wedding present going to come from if that is going to be the socio-economic stream that provides the music in the UK tomorrow? So we have got to fight really hard, and I know Sadiq cares a lot about this, we've got to fight really hard to make sure that there is good music education provision for all young people, no matter how much money they've got in their pockets. So that's a really important message. I'm going to hand over to Sadiq now.
Can I say thank you to Horace and Michael, the British Musicians Union, but also UK Music, for organising today's event. Can I say, look, some of you may have come to the British Music Embassy hoping to see up-and-coming British talent, to see some artists performing, and instead I've got three middle-aged men sitting on stools, not even singing Boy's Own, but making a speech. I'm here not to talk but to listen, but let me just say a couple of things by way of introduction. I actually think Michael rightly talks about the economic benefits of the music industry, important though they are. But I think the cultural benefits, the joy it gives to us in the lives we lead, the nourishment of the soul, the fulfillment you give to us is something I'm really proud of. And I was this morning with 40 American mayors, and I couldn't say it there, but I can say it now because they're not here. It's great to be the mayor of the greatest city in the world. And one of the reasons why London is so well known around the world is our music heritage. Whether you're an artist, whether you run a live music venue, whether you organise gigs, whether you're a publisher, you've contributed to London being renowned around the world for who we are. Open-minded, outward-looking, innovators. You know, I was speaking to a friend who's here today actually, at the Brits, and he reminded me of a conversation we had last year when, for the first time, Skepta and Stormzy performed on stage, and he recalled a conversation we had last year where I was angry that they'd not been nominated for any awards, and he said to me, don't worry, next year they will be, and one of them may even win, and lo and behold, the British male artist was Stormzy. But the point he made to me was really important. Grime, for example, isn't simply something that people in urban parts of our country enjoy, it's now mainstream. And that's the joy of music. Music has led to not just Stormzy, Wiley, Skepta being very successful, but it's changed the attitudes of people not of African Caribbean descent or not having mates who are African Caribbean about how we view black Londoners and black people. I'll give you examples after examples after examples of history, whether it's Boy George and him performing and changing the attitudes about people who are gay. And there are other examples we can talk about, what music has done. But actually, I just want to say this, there are huge challenges facing your industry. Michael's referred to one of them. Live music venues closing down. The Agent of Change idea came from a meeting I had with the Musicians Union in South London. When I was running for mayor, they told me that in the last 8 years before I became mayor, half the live music venues in London closed down. And we had a conversation, and they gave me the idea. Publicly, I claim all the credit for it, but it came from these guys. Other things we're doing, the work Michael's doing in relation to Form 696. Look, an example of how policy can indirectly discriminate against certain artists. If you run a live music place in London, you have to fill in this form 696, which indirectly picked on black artists, grime artists and others, and lobbying through Michael and stuff. We've got rid of that as well. And so this is an example of some of the things we're doing in London, but really I'm keen to hear from you. There are people taking notes. Michael and Horace will pass on notes to me, but I want London to stay the greatest city in the world, and it breaks my heart, and I get really angry privately, although publicly I pretend I'm cool with this, when people tell me Austin is the live music capital of the world. Yeah, whatever.
Great, thank you, Sadiq. So now I'm going to have to be the bad guy and let you know when Sadiq's got to go very, very shortly. But as I said, he just wants to hear from a couple of people. Have we got 2 or 3 really, really quick points that that any of the people here want to make?
Yeah. Hi, Sadiq.
Including some women as well, would be nice.
Yeah. We do showcasing over here, and we bought Stormzy with SBTV over here. We bought the Big Jazz Showcase over here. It's actually, we often work in isolation at this, and it's hard to do it. It'd be good to know who in the London office we can talk to get some support on those showcases.